Dorks Like Us, covering the entertainment for you.
Hey, what's up everyone? Foxhound N313 here from Dorks Like Us. And I'm recording this a few hours after the big Nintendo Switch event. I said I would give my thoughts on it afterwards, and here I am doing that now. I wanted to kind of give a somewhat early impression. I wanted to let everything sort of digest in my mind and see what other news would come out. And there was a few other little things and stuff we'll talk about here, but I wanted to kind of mull over it because my initial sort of reaction to it wasn't that great. And I still don't think it was a very good event, but we'll get into that as we go along. So I'm just going to break down the things I liked and the things that I didn't like. We'll start with the positive. The system is reasonably affordable, $299. That's about what we expected. There were rumors going on this past week that it was going to be $250. I was kind of hoping that would be the case, but I was like, it'll probably end up being $300, and it was. I was kind of hoping for multiple bundles, like perhaps a Zelda bundle, but no such luck. But even still, I don't want to try to downplay that. It's a decent price point, and unlike the Wii U, I think over time it will get cheaper. The biggest thing for me, I think, outside of the games, was the announcement that the Switch would be region-free. This is fantastic news. This way, if Nintendo of America or the Treehouse screws up any more localizations, we can at least buy the Japanese version. And I think with the PlayStation 4, and I don't know if this is the case with every game, but I remember looking into Dead or Alive, the volleyball beach game, whatever. And of course it didn't get localized, but if you bought the Chinese version, and if I remember it was the Chinese version, that version had English subtitles. Now I don't know if that's the case with every Chinese port, but if that is the case, and that turns out to be the case with the Switch, at least you'll have subtitles. But again, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. It might just be region-free for Japanese games. Who knows? But that's a step in the right direction. So I'm very, very happy about that, and give them credit for doing that. The Wii U and 3DS shouldn't have been region-locked to begin with, but, the mistake has been rectified to an extent, so great. And as far as games go, the new Mario game looked great. I don't know how people are going to react. I haven't really seen too many reactions yet, but I don't know how people are going to react to seeing Mario in a somewhat more realistic-looking world. Because, Sonic got quite a bit of flack for that when they did that in 2006. I think people were more upset at him having a female love interest that was like a real human being, and they just sort of... People just hated the game in general, so they just sort of lashed out at absolutely every aspect of it. But then again, I think Sonic fans might be a bit more nitpicky with a lot of those things than Nintendo fans. But regardless, the game looks great. It's a return to form in some ways. They're going back to a more open world style, like the Mario 64, Mario Galaxy, that sort of thing, which I would really call more non-linear. I know the hub world was open and you could just kind of freely explore, and I think you'll be able to do that in this game. But as far as the levels themselves go, hard to say just yet, because I don't know if what we were seeing there, what was the hub, what was levels. I think the New York thing might be the hub and be kind of like a Mario Galaxy thing, but we'll see. Anyway, though, it looks really good. If you haven't seen the trailer yet, go look it up because it looks great. And they announced Splatoon 2. Looks great. Not a huge graphical improvement over the first game, but with those kinds of games, you're not going to see a huge graphical leap. I mean, the new Mario game looks great, and it does look better than Mario 3D World, but not by a great deal. Because Mario 3D World looks great. If you want to play it now, it still holds up. It looks gorgeous. And it does look very similar to that. Mario 3D World looks like a Pixar movie, and this new Mario Odyssey, as it's called, Super Mario Odyssey, looks like an even better Pixar movie. So I don't want to downgrade the improvements that were made, but it's not a night and day difference. It's basically what I think we all expected. It's like the leap from 7th gen to 8th gen with PlayStation and Xbox. There were diminishing returns, and you're seeing that here as well. But that's, I don't care about specs and all that stuff, as I've made clear in the past. And outside of Nintendo's own stuff, there was a lot of great Japanese third-party support shown. A new Shin Megami game was announced. I played one of them, Shin Megami Tensei 4, I think it was on the 3DS. It didn't really grab me because I thought that I didn't care for the sprites. I was hoping they'd have like full 3D monsters, and that there would have been some like animation in there. I mean, obviously with the 3DS's limitations, they couldn't do a great deal. But you look at Pokemon, they got over 600 3D models in those games, and they look way better than Shin Megami. But this one's running on Unreal 4, so it's going to be a drastic improvement, I think, in terms of its visual quality over the previous games. And that's a huge leap going from the 3DS to the Switch in terms of power. And now some new I guess they're ports of Dragon Quest games. And I've never played a Dragon Quest game, but they look great. I might end up looking into them somewhere down the road. But suffice to say, what they showed that was good was good. It was really good. Now on to what I didn't like about the event. First off, the paid online. Now already, the fanboys are damage controlling. Well, the Sony and Microsoft can make you pay for it. Why can't Nintendo? I don't defend it, no matter who's doing it. With Sony and with Microsoft both, the argument for having paid online is, well, they need the money to maintain their servers. Alright. They should be using the money they make off the consoles for that. But they sell their consoles at a loss. That's their problem. I shouldn't be penalized because they don't know how to price their systems. And they should also use the money they make off of their first-party games to maintain their servers. Because here's the thing about online. Generally speaking, and there are exceptions, but generally speaking, when most people play a game online, they're playing a third-party game, be it Grand Theft Auto 5, Call of Duty, Madden, what have you. So when you pay Sony, or you pay Microsoft $60 a year, you're paying them to access third-party servers, essentially. And the third parties aren't seeing a cent of that money. So the whole thing doesn't make any sense. And with Steam, it's free. With the PlayStation 3, it was free. With the Wii U, it was free. And with Nintendo doing it, it makes even less sense, because with Sony, when they brought along PlayStation Plus, they introduced it as an optional service. And over the course of the PlayStation 3's life cycle, they steadily improved the online. And even though I still don't think it's worth paying for, at least they went out of their way to build it up and try to make it into something that was worth paying for. With Nintendo, they're going from 0 to 60. The Wii U's online sucked. And they did nothing over the course of its life cycle to improve it and to show people that, hey, we get it, we're working on it, it's going to get better. They did none of that. And again, they're going from 0 to 60. It just doesn't work. I'm not going to pay for their online. And it's going to be even worse for the Switch, because the only online multiplayer games that you're probably going to have are the ones that Nintendo publishes, like Splatoon and the next Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, which are all great games, but it's going to be very limited. Because we have the announcement for FIFA, and that's great, but who knows if the one the next year will come or the year after that. It very well could be another Wii U situation where all the Western third parties just drop off after the first year with what few we've got pledged to support the system. If they wanted to charge people for it, and I know they got the free trial thing, but that's not the same thing. They should have had the service be free throughout the entire life cycle of the Switch, and then introduce the paid service, the subscription service, midway through the console's life cycle as an optional thing. And then when they did their next system, then if they wanted to, they could go and charge, and have it be mandatory. I wouldn't be on board with that either, but it certainly would have been a better way of handling it than the way they're doing it now. So that was a huge misstep. And once they got into showing the games, the first two games that they showed were games that heavily utilized, and that's being generous, heavily utilized the motion controls. So motion controls are back and in full force, pretty much exactly like they were on the Wii. And the first two games that they showed were basically shovelware titles that just demonstrates what the motion controls can do. Now, it's fine if you want to show those games, but to have those be the first games you show at this event, that was stupid. I don't care how you spin it, how much you love Nintendo or whatever, that was stupid. Huge misstep. Those games should have been in a sizzle reel somewhere in the middle. They had a sizzle reel in the middle where they show third-party games and their own first-party stuff, and they showed games in there like Dragon Ball Z, Xenoverse 2, which I'm assuming it's Xenoverse 2, and NBA 2K18. They showed those games in the sizzle reel. Those games should have had their own trailers. I would have been more stoked to have seen a trailer for that than for this shovelware crap. And that shovelware crap should have been in the sizzle reel. So that was stupid. And on the subject of third parties, as I mentioned with the NBA, the NBA 2K18, that's coming. And I thought the NBA game that they showed at the Switch thing, which the one they showed at the Switch trailer back a few months ago probably was 2K17, but the Switch is getting 2K18, which is great. It's not just, a port of last year's NBA game, which would have sucked. But as far as third-party support goes overall, it's about what I originally expected. You're going to get a lot of Japanese support because you're going to have a lot of those developers that made games for the 3DS and that still continue to make games for the Vita that want a cheaper platform to develop for. And they'll have that with the Switch. With the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, it's a little more expensive. Now, the PS4 is getting pretty good niche Japanese support from companies like Xseed and NIS America and so on and so forth. But I'd say they probably want something a little bit cheaper to develop for, and they're going to have that with the Switch, which is great for them. And for me personally, that's, if that's all the third-party support the Switch got, and if I get a Switch or whatever, that's good enough for me. I already have a PlayStation 4 for the Western stuff. However, for everyone else, when people say they want third-party support on the Switch, that's not the kind of third-party support they're talking about. Now, they might be referring to some of Square Enix's stuff and, maybe Capcom, the bigger, Japanese publishers, but not necessarily companies like Atlus. And Square Enix did have games to show. They had the Dragon Quest, but a lot of people were hoping for a Final Fantasy 15 port or a 7 port, the 7 remake, and that didn't happen. Now, it very well could be the case that they're saving the Western stuff that they have for E3. And, that very well could be a possibility. But having said that, they did have an executive from EA there talking about FIFA. And they did have NBA in that sizzle reel, and they also showed Skyrim. They had a separate little sort of developer video for Skyrim. So they had Western games there. So if you had more than that, if you had a Call of Duty game coming to the system, if you had a Madden coming to the system, you'd think they would have at least shown those in the sizzle reel. And then when E3 rolls along, you have full-blown trailers for them at your big event. So that kind of tells me right there, I really don't think you're going to see much in terms of the Western stuff, which is, disappointing. Again, for me personally, I have a PS4. I would have bought these third-party games on the Switch because I do like the portable aspect of it, but it doesn't look like that's going to exactly pan out. And it has nothing to do with the power. People are going to automatically rush to the power thing. Oh, well, look, the Switch is underpowered. That's why it's not getting games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and this and that. The truth of the matter is, a lot of these developers got burned with the Wii U. Companies like Activision, I think that's why you didn't see a Call of Duty, at least not yet. Again, it could be announced at E3, so I don't want to rule anything out. But with Rockstar, they burned bridges with them a long time ago, and the only thing that would get them to come back around is Nintendo dishing out some money to get that support. And Nintendo's just not going to do it. Nintendo still has I would call it a flare of complacency about them, where they still feel like it's the Wii era, and they can just sort of do their own thing and not really need anyone's help to do it. And they might be right. I think the Switch still can do very well with just the support that it has, especially if it's marketed well. If anything's marketed well, it can sell well. That was the Wii U's main issue, aside from the name. Even with its lack of third-party support, if the system had been advertised at all, it would have at least sold what the GameCube did. It had really good first-party support and games that could have been easily marketed if they'd put forth any effort, but they didn't. So if they do that with the Switch, it can do very well. But for anyone out there hoping that it was going to have the kind of third-party support that the PS4, Xbox One is going to get, at this point, this doesn't look like that's going to happen. Could change. The Switch could be an instant success, and developers sort of reevaluate it and like, hey, maybe we'll put this game on there. That could happen, but as of right now, I don't know. I don't see it happening. As for whether or not they sold me on the system for a day one thing, they got the region locking thing right. They got rid of that, so that was a good thing. Paid online was sort of a strike. I was hoping to get an announcement for some sort of Nintendo achievement system. That didn't happen, and it looks like that's not going to be a feature of the system unless it gets announced later, because they've already showed off the system's menu, its interface, and all of its online features. And yeah, and the thing about online, it looks like you have to have the app to even do voice chat, like you do the voice chat through your phone, which just is, it's stupid. Why would you do that? You just use Google Hangouts. I mean, I know you have to do that to set up like online matches, or I guess set up online matches with friends, but for voice chat and instant messaging, that should be on the system itself. You can have the app as well, and that's fine, but it needs to be integrated within the system itself. Have to have a separate app for that is just kind of ridiculous. At least that's my understanding of it. And maybe it was just mistranslated, but that's what it sounded like they were saying at the event. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sold on it for a day one purchase. I'm going to wait and see what gets announced at E3, and hopefully there'll be a bit more there, a little bit more meat on the bone. Like I said, for me, I just care about the Japanese support, but I need to see more. Shin Megami, the one I played on the 3DS didn't really grab me. I'm more of a Persona guy. So I'm waiting to see if there's something else, more Japanese support announced that I really care about. I was hoping maybe for a Metal Gear port, but I knew that was hoping for too much. But on a scale from 1 to 10, I'd give it about a 6.5. It was passable. But if you guys watched the event, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Was it a day one purchase for you, or are you going to kind of hang back and see where it goes and see what more games get announced for it? I know they're going to do more stuff tomorrow, so maybe more games will get announced, and maybe I'll do another video. But anyway, that's all for now. Hit that like button, subscribe to us if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more content from dorks like us. This is Foxhounder N313 signing off. God bless.